Hey there again, this is Mr. Anderson, your substitute video lesson teacher. Today we're going to talk about just solving quadratic equations using factoring. So all the skills that we've kind of built up for the last couple learning targets to kind of culminate into this. So steps for solving quadratics. Number one says make sure your equations are equal to 0. That's an important thing to be able to do. Step two, we want to be able to factor using either the area model or grouping, which is what we've already practiced. So make sure you check the GCF first. And then the last step, 3, is use the zero product property to help us solve and isolate the two factors from one another. So number one, we got to make sure, like it said, that it's equal to 0. So if it's not, you got to move everything to one side. So I'm subtracted 2x to get there. And that gives me x squared minus 2x minus 63 equals 0. Identify what my a, b, and c are. And then remember we used the diamond method. So c times a gets us negative 63, looking for factors of negative 63 that add up to negative 2. So just listing them out here. So I get negative 1 times 63, negative 3 times 70, or 21, negative 7 times 9. And then the reverse of those with the negatives on the other side. And so here, 7 times negative 9, or 7 plus negative 9, gets me a negative 2. So those are my factors. So let's try grouping here. So rewriting the negative 2x as negative or positive 7x and negative 9x. And then grouping them, so the first two and the second two. So remember dividing out their greatest common factor. So in the first two, we have an x in common. In the second two, we have a negative 9 in common. So then that leaves us with x plus 7. Remember that the parentheses, or the stuff inside the parentheses, the leftovers, need to be the same for both. So for factor form, that's what we've done previously. Now we're going to tack on what we just talked about in the previous video, where we're going to separate each of the factors and set them equal to 0. So that we can solve. And so x equals 9 and x equals negative 7 for that problem. Number 2, check if it's set equal to 0. In this case it is, so we don't have to do anything. So a is 9, b is 3, and c is negative 2. So 8 times c should be negative 18, and b is 3. And so listing out my factors of negative 18, that would add to give me a positive 3, and it looks like negative 3 plus 6 would do that. So those would be my factors. For this problem, let's try the area model. So 9x squared plus, or negative 3x plus 6x minus 2. So make our box here and list them out. And so we can list out the factors of 9, negative 3, 6, and negative 2 real quick and see what matches. So for the first row, 9x squared and negative 3x have an x in common, but they also have a 3 in common. So they both have a 3, so let's write 3x out front. And then 6x minus 2, they both have a 2 in common, so I'm going to write 2 plus 2. And then 9x squared and 6x, they both have an x and a 3 in common, so write 3x. And then negative 3x minus 2, they both have a negative 1 in common, so then we'll write negative 1. And so our factored form will be 3x plus 2 times 3x minus 1. But then, like we did before, set it equal to 0. Zero product property allows me to separate them and solve. Both of these will be a two-step problem. And so for the first one, I get negative 2/3 for x, and then the last one I get 1/3 for x. Okay? Have fun with your practice.